folks, welcome back to Mr. P's Film Review, and I'm here with another retro review from the year 1997, and I've saved the best for last. Titanic, the Oscar-winning epic, was released in 1997, was written and directed by James Cameron, and it stars Leonardo Dicaprio, Kate Winslet, Billy Zane, Kathy Bates, and the late Bill Paxton. This epic love story tells the story of two youngsters, a teenage aristocrat, played by Kate Winslet, and a poor artist, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who fall in love aboard the ill-fated Titanic. As always guys, before we go any further, I want you to hit that subscribe button so you can follow this channel, hit the alarm bell as well so you can get notifications when my video is going to be uploaded, and give this video a like as well. James Cameron is a director who is way ahead of his time. His movies are more than events, they are experiences for all. And with every movie that he has made, he has pushed the envelope and set a new standard with what can be achieved technically and visually. Every film that he makes is a landmark, and decades after the release, the film still looks as crisp, from such epics as True Lies and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. When James Cameron started pre-production with Titanic, the executives were very skeptical about a romantic love story from James Cameron, and it was frowned upon. This wasn't seen as a surefire box office hit, and they wanted a box office hit from James Cameron, so they wanted him to do something like Spider-Man, or a sequel to True Lies, or another Terminator movie. James Cameron actually conducted real-life deep-sea dives, surveying the real-life wreckage of the Titanic. And this was actually featured in the movie, and he knew then that this was going to be his next project. James Cameron didn't want moviegoers to actually see the Titanic, they actually wanted them to experience it. And with every movie that he makes, he will raise the standard. And this time he set about constructing a replica of Titanic. And he paid meticulous attention to every detail. The budget for Titanic quickly spiraled from 120 million to 200 million. Many critics felt that Titanic would be the biggest box office disaster of all time, in the same vein as Cutthroat Island and Waterworld. And with a runtime of 3 hours, the bets were against Titanic. James Cameron hired over 500 extras and wrote individual lines of dialogue for each and every one of them. The production of Titanic was a very troublesome one, with many cast members becoming sick due to food poisoning. Many were complaining about James Cameron's draconian perfectionist methods, and Kate Winslet said she didn't have a good time on Titanic, and said that she would never work with him again. Titanic had its release in 1997, with many skeptics keen to write the movie off as one of the biggest box office disasters of the year. But James Cameron and Titanic proved critics wrong, as Titanic was a critical and commercial success, becoming one of the best-loved romantic dramas of the 1990s and being the first film in history to pass the $1 billion mark. It was nominated for 14 Academy Awards and won 11. Titanic is a movie that was made in the same vein as Gone with the Wind or Lawrence of Arabia, which is a grand and lush Hollywood epic. Titanic at 25 years old visually looks way ahead of its time, and at 3 hours it flows beautifully. And it sets the narrative perfectly for every step of the movie. In the opening sequence of the movie, we see the late Bill Paxton, a frequent collaborator of James Cameron, played Brock Lovett, an explorer who travels with his team to the wreckage of Titanic to locate the heart of the ocean, a rare exotic diamond. Instead, he finds a picture of a girl in the nude wearing the necklace. And the picture is dated the same day the Titanic sunk. Rose DeWitt-Bukater, who was 100 at the time, played by the late Gloria Stewart, tells Brock Lovett that it's actually she in the picture, and then recounts her experience of being on the Titanic and how she came into contact with the diamond. The scale of the sets and the production is awe-inspiring. And this movie actually puts you on board the Titanic. Whilst I do find that the dialogue in this movie can be somewhat cliched and a bit cheesy, it still works after 25 years. Titanic has two charismatic performances from Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, in roles which were originally intended for Matthew McConaughey and Angelina Jolie. It's hard to picture anybody else other than these two actually playing these characters, because they actually complement each other perfectly. And they hold the screen with brilliant on-screen chemistry, and they build the romance. Leonardo DiCaprio made a likeable hero as Everyman Jack, and Kate Winslet was excellent as Rose. Some people may have thought the love story was a bit of a distraction, but I actually felt that it actually complemented to the narrative of Titanic. And when the Titanic actually sank and you actually see Rose and Jack trying to survive and actually maintain their love, it makes you engaged in the love story and invested in the love story even further. You got very strong support from the likes of Billy Zane, and whilst the love story of Titanic is actually fictional, they do actually include real-life characters like the unsinkable Molly Brown, played by the ever-brilliant Kathy Bates. Titanic plucks at your heartstrings, especially when we see the building of Jack and Rose's relationship. Titanic moves back and forth from past to present, where we see old Rose narrate her experiences aboard the Titanic. And this doesn't feel overused and unnecessary at all. And whilst Titanic is an excellent watch, a slow burning but brilliant watch, it is the spectacular sinking of the Titanic, where James Cameron shows that he is the best at action. His use of practical sets, miniatures, visual effects and spectacular stunt work make the sinking of Titanic one of the most mesmerizing and exhilarating experiences in cinematic history, coupled with James Horner's mesmerizing score. There are so many touching scenes when we see the final sinking of the Titanic. From the orchestra playing Nearer My God to Thee, to a couple holding hands whilst the Titanic is actually drowning, which was actually something that actually happened. We see a mother who is a third-class ticket holder singing her kisses as the Titanic actually begins to sink. Titanic has so many quotable lines, like "I'm flying and I'm the king of the world." And they always say that imitation is the highest form of flattery. And Titanic and certain scenes of it has been parodied in numerous cartoons, from The Simpsons to Family Guy to South Park to Futurama. Titanic at the time grossed $1.8 billion worldwide and was the first movie ever to do so. When the movie was re-released in 2012, it grossed an additional $390 million, taking the worldwide gross to $2.1 billion. However, Avatar would surpass that record. Titanic has a spectacular theme tune from Celine Dion that has been sung at many weddings and also at many karaoke events. And the brilliant relationship between Jack and Rose is what holds this movie together. Their love and also Jack's demise actually brings a tear to your eye, and still does after 25 years. In 2001, action director Michael Bay tried to recreate the same formula that James Cameron did with Pearl Harbor, in which he created a fictional love story against a real-life event. But whilst critics praised the visual effects and score, the movie received negative reviews from critics for the storyline, the runtime, screenplay and dialogue, pacing and the historical inaccuracy. The ending to Titanic is very touching, but also is open to speculation, where we see Rose asleep and then we see her meet Jack and the survivors, and it's very unclear as to whether she was actually dreaming or had actually passed away in her sleep. But nonetheless, Titanic, one of the best movies of 1997. You experience the love story between Jack and Rose every step of the way, and it was never distracting from the narrative. Spectacular visual effects and brilliant performances make Titanic one of the best movies from 1997. And whilst I would always say that James Cameron's best movie would always be Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Titanic is a close competitor, so I'll give this film a very strong 9 out of 10. So guys, there we have it. Thank you for watching as always. Please, can you hit that subscribe button so you can follow this channel? Please hit the alarm bell as well so you can get notifications when my videos are going to be uploaded. Give this video a like as well. Leave your comment with whether you've actually seen Titanic and how do you feel about it after 25 years. And what was your favourite scene? Comment down below and I shall see you all in the next film review. Take care.